For your submarine simulator, you're probably going to want to have some terrain under it, so an ocean floor, so that you can actually see that the submarine is moving. And the detail doesn't have to be all that great. You just need something to give a reference point for your submarine moving. We're going to start our process here by going to the Create menu, choosing 3D Object, and then Terrain. This is going to create a basic terrain object in Unity, and if it creates it really close to you, then zoom out a bit so that you can actually see the full extent. I'm going to hold down middle mouse button and slide this into view a little bit. And you can probably notice I've already chosen some tools over here. So the first tool is for raising and lowering the terrain. You can use painting heights and things like that. You've got smoothing. You've got the ability to paint textures. We're not going to talk so much about trees and things like that in this one. So for this one, all I'm going to do is set up a terrain, and I'm going to try to block out everything outside of the local area so that people can't just see that there's nothing out there. We're going to be underwater, and so I'll start by making a ridge kind of around the outside here that people can't see past. So I'll just kind of go around, and it doesn't have to be super tall, because remember, this can be scaled, and your submarine's actually going to be pretty tiny relative to the terrain itself. So you don't really need it to be super tall, just tall enough that people can't see past the hills here. And then if you wanted to add some other details, if you want to have like some areas in the middle, some things you have to kind of go around with your submarine, that's fine too. And then you've got these other tools here that you could go in, and I'm going to reduce the opacity so that this doesn't affect it quite so much. And then I can start adding some details in here so it doesn't look so smooth. It's going to look more like an actual terrain of some sort. Okay. Now as I zoom in, you can start to see the floor and what it looks like, and you can keep messing with this until it looks exactly the way you want. And if you really, really, really want to be goofy, we can put a star right in the middle there. Okay, so now we've got our terrain. I want to actually have some color, and so what I've done is I've downloaded some pictures, and I'm going to drag those in to Unity. So the pictures that I've downloaded are all variations of different sandy type things like that. So I went on to Google and I just found some images, and I'm going to drag these into my Unity now. So let me just drag these in. And I've got 3 different ones because I want to show you that you can paint with multiple textures. But in order to paint with textures, you're going to need to add them. So we're going to go over here and edit textures. We'll add a texture, and we'll select the textures that we want to use. So I'll start out by adding this one and adding it. And we'll do the same thing again. Choose another one and add it. And then yet again, I'll add a texture. And you can find whatever textures you want, whatever colors you think you want to have. And notice that the first one I used is the default texture. Okay, and so it gets applied to everything. And I'm also going to change my lighting back so that I don't have compressed textures, because that really messes with the appearance of things. So notice now it's a really uniform, defined color. And then I can go and grab a brush and choose one of the other colors then and start painting and see how I can get these different variations of color on the ocean floor. Because in reality, it's not all going to be exactly the same color. And I can change the opacity and the brush size so that it doesn't have, like maybe in some areas it's going to be really that particular color, and in other areas it's just barely hinted at being that color. Okay, and if you hold it down, you're going to paint more. If you just click, you're going to paint less. Okay, and then maybe I'll choose the second texture here and increase the opacity. I'm just going to click a couple times in a couple areas so you can see what having the opacity higher is. And then once you get your terrain the way you want, then basically you're done.